Hello, welcome to the 1517 YouTube channel. My name's Caleb Keith, and today we're talking about why Christians sing hymns. I am joined by Dr. Steve Mueller at Concordia University, Irvine today to answer some questions about hymnody, maybe give people an idea about what is Christian hymnody and why do they sing them. So the first question for this video is, what is a hymn, properly speaking?
Yeah, that's a controversial question. People have different definitions. Most people would say it's a Christian song. I mean, it started out being broader than that, but it's a Christian song that has probably significant content to it. It's not just a chorus or a refrain, but it's got a didactic element to it or something that carries a little more weight.
What's like the brief history of the Christian church and singing? A lot of people know that if you go to a Christian church, you're probably going to hear some singing or do some singing. But is there sort of a brief reason why Christians are known for singing?
Sure. Well, we picked it up from our Jewish heritage and the singing of the Psalms and other things. We read in the Gospels, right? The night Jesus was betrayed, they go out to the garden singing a hymn, as they're going. In the New Testament, Paul talks about, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. And so, of course, it was natural. The Christians kept doing what they were doing, adding in new texts. And some of them are found in the words of the New Testament, like the Magnificat or Philippians 2. But in time, they started writing paraphrases of biblical texts and other things to teach the faith. And that's just kept going this whole time.
What are some of singing has a lot of utility and uses. Obviously, I mean, people listen to music in the car everywhere they go. Sure. Everybody's got headphones on. Everybody's listening to something most of the time. What are some of the core reasons that Christians put their theology or put scripture to song?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things. So one of the things is it's significantly easier to remember something if it's set to music, because we're using in our brains both processing text, but also processing pitch and rhythm. And by activating different parts of our brain at once, that's easier to form memories. So that's one thing. And if you've ever tried to study for a test and couldn't remember something and put it to a chant or to music, that's how it works. It also, I think it unites a community because it slows us down a little bit to think about the words. We're breathing, a little more measured way. And I'm paying attention to you and to the other people around me, to both in pitch and in cadence, because we got to align to a certain degree if we're going to sing together. And so it builds up community in a way that few other things do.
One thing that I think in broader Christianity isn't as common to see in everybody's home anymore, but certainly would have been in one period of time, something that the Lutheran Reformation helped usher in is hymn books. What is the typical content of a hymn book, and what would be the utility for somebody maybe who doesn't have one, purchasing or finding a hymn book to keep at home?
Sure. Well, the bulk of material in a hymn book is hymns, right? And depending on what tradition you're in or which book it is, it's fewer or greater numbers. Some of the early ones had no music in them, and some have just melody lines and some have things, but it's everything you need to sing and sometimes to play that song are there. But there's almost always other resources. So, in a liturgical church, there's going to be orders of service and liturgies that come, in a Lutheran church, it's going to be some of the historic liturgies. There'll be prayers. The creeds are typically found in hymnals, and just a lot of other readings. We think of them in terms of worship together, which is their primary purpose, but they're really great devotional readings too. Someone can pick up a hymnal and read a bit of scripture in it, and have some prayers there and have a hymn. And if they don't want to sing it by themselves, they can at least read the poetry. And there's a lot to get from that. And then a newer trend is, a number of hymnals of late have started coming out with editions that have extra stuff in it.
Okay.
So devotional thoughts and things like that. So the Lutheran Service Book has an edition like that with, here's some of the story of the hymn or some other things to go along. I heard the brand new resource that Keith and Kristen Getty and their team have just put out has an edition that does a similar sort of thing with readings from church fathers or things that give you more context to the hymn. It can be really a neat resource for devotion.
What does it mean it's sometimes described that Protestant Christianity, though this is of course so broad that it means something, but sometimes churches are described as singing church. Like Lutherans often self-describe as a singing church. That can be said of other churches too. But what does it mean to be a singing church? What is that professing?
Sure. So Lutherans were called a singing church because I think from the beginning there was an effort to use hymns in a didactic way. So Luther you put all the chief parts of the catechism into music, as a way to memorize, and made sure that key doctrines were covered so that, you're always, think of a child growing up in church and you're singing these songs and they know a lot of the teachings from doing that without any work at all. They're just, they're just soaking it up. And then it carried out in other ways. And I think it was called a singing church. They saw that the content was delivered so effectively that there was always music. There was always music as part of it. And it wasn't me sitting back and listening to music, although there's a place for that too, but it was participatory. The chief instrument in a congregation, the chief musician in the congregation isn't the organist or the band or whoever, it's the congregation. It's the people who join their voices together, and that promotes the faith.
What are some ways that people can find out more about hymns? Do you have any suggested books that would maybe jump somebody into the history of hymns or as a singing church, or is there something easy to grab for people on this topic?
So that's a hard question because there's so much.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of different things. And it does depend. I mean, people are going to want to probably pick something from their own tradition.
Sure.
Most hymnal projects include things that have the history and reflection on the hymns. So with Lutheran Service Book, sorry, it's just across the room there.
Yeah.
There's a pretty hefty 2-volume set that goes through, tells the story of who wrote it, why they wrote it, what the texts were, and stuff like that. And it teaches you the history and gives you more things to think about. And there's smaller versions of that.
Okay.
Even on a broad level, some of the most popular hymns often come up in the stories of the great hymns or things. There's all kinds of different books that tell this. And then there's, of course, deep scholarly resources that go in a long way too.
Right. Well, great. Hey, thank you for your time. We have a full-length episode on this topic, why Christians sing hymns. We talked about singing at funerals. We talked about some stories. We talked about the emotional and catechetical impact of hymns over there. So you can go find that at the Thinking Fellows. That's on YouTube on its own separate channel, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcasting app. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.